Hey everyone, welcome to my March weekly Plan With Me video. For these pages, I'll be continuing on with the spring camping theme from my March monthly setup. I'm also using some new acrylic paint markers from the brand Woomer that were recently gifted to me. You may recall that brand from when I did a review on their colored pencil line back in February, so I was excited to try out this set of 36 paint markers. At the bottom of this page, I'm coloring in a small camper. I didn't really stick with a storyline for the weekly pages here as I did with the monthly pages, but I just decided to draw a lot of different camping and springtime doodles on these pages. The coverage of these paint markers is a little bit thinner than I've experienced with other paint markers, so I'll be doubling or tripling up the layers of paint for each color you see me lay down. But I usually do this anyhow with all of my paint markers, and after doing that with these markers, I found the coverage to be very good. At first, I was a bit conflicted with the color palette. I really thought this purple was going to be too dark for me since I really love light pastel colors. Quite a few times I debated grabbing a lighter purple color from another set of markers, but then I decided to challenge myself to use just the colors that were available in this set. There's also a set of 72 of these paint markers with a larger color variety, but unfortunately I was not able to get my hands on those, so I just took this as a challenge to use a more limited color palette for this theme. And in the end, I really enjoy how these colors worked with one another and how they created a very cute springtime color palette. I really enjoyed this bright yellow color, and it was the color I felt brought out the springtime vibes the most with these pages. I decided to try freehanding drawing the boxes around the mini calendar and days of the week again instead of using a ruler, and I think I was able to create somewhat straighter lines this time around than I did in the March monthly Plan With Me video. I had debated using fineliners to draw in the lines around these boxes, but then I decided that these colors were just too fun to pass up, and so I made a very bright and colorful decision by using the paint markers to outline everything. Then I'm coming in with my dark gray fineliner and outlining the flowers and the camper on this page. I still think an all black fineliner is easier to work with over paint markers, but I'm just stubborn and continue to keep using my dark gray fineliners because they give off a bit of a softer look in the outlines. If you've watched any of my previous acrylic paint marker videos, then you know where my struggle lies with this, but it's kind of difficult to explain over and over again, so I'll just let it be. I think with art and different mediums, we're always picking our battles in one way or another because each medium has different pros and cons to its application. Overall, I've really enjoyed using different paint markers in my bullet journal recently. The colors are so vibrant, and it's awesome to be able to layer them up and fix mistakes super easily. So I definitely think this will be one of my go-to mediums for bullet journal pages going forward. I'm adding a few highlights onto the elements here, which I found really took everything to the next level and added a lot of cuteness to this page in a very simple way. I also decided to add a light drop shadow around the flowers and boxes. You can't see it super well on camera, but I think it adds a nice effect to the pages in real life. And here's an up-close look at the finished week 1 pages. Now let's take a closer look at this set of acrylic paint markers by Woomer. They come in this little plastic case which has a nice handle at the top for carrying, and on the back you can see a very poor representation of the colors. The colors are actually much brighter and prettier than they are shown here, which is why I always do my own color swatching test. There are a couple little clips to open up the marker case, and then it folds out on 3 trays. The markers are held very securely in this packaging, so some of them are a bit tricky to pull out, but this is what they look like up close. I think the marker barrels look really nice, and I really enjoy these little stars where you can somewhat see the paint level inside of the barrel of the marker. On the cap, there is the color code written in small letters and numbers. And the back of the marker is rounded, so you can easily place the marker cap on its end. These markers come with a nice brush tip, which is really convenient for getting into small spaces and laying down color smoothly. And it has another little chamber here for paint, but I didn't really see it was filled up much, so I'm not entirely sure of its purpose. And now I'll go ahead and test swatch all of these colors for you. I was pretty happy with the variety of colors in this set, despite the fact that there are only 36 markers, and for someone who loves color options like me, that is a bit limiting. There was a good variety of yellows, pinks, greens, and blues, and I like that there's a nice pastel pink and a pastel blue color since I use those so often, but I definitely would have liked to see more purple colors in this set. I also enjoy that they included quite a few different gray tones, which is really nice when your main character is gray like mine is. I also thought I would quickly show you how these markers look over black paper. As I mentioned, they are a little less opaque than some other paint marker brands, but if you double them up, the coverage is actually quite nice. Moving on to our second set of weekly pages, and this set of pages is very doodle heavy. There are so many cute things that can be packed up and brought with for a camping trip. I decided I wanted to include a bunch of them here, and I also thought it would be really fun to draw a lot of them because I know I'll eventually be creating a sticker sheet out of this theme, and I'll be able to use a lot of these cute little drawings for that. That being said, I've recently finished up my sticker sheet from my January theme, which was ice cream related, and I'm just about to get that listed on both of my shops, so I should have that done by the time I publish this video. I have an Etsy shop, which I'll link below, and I have a shop set up on my YouTube channel here with prices that are a bit more affordable. I currently only ship to the US because shipping is quite a nightmare, and I've recently discovered that selling to the EU, even if it's just digital products, is also quite a nightmare. So I wish I could expand where I ship to, but for now I just have to stick with what I know in the US. But anyways, it was a lot of fun to create a sticker sheet again because it's been quite a while since I've done one, and I'm definitely excited to continue making my bullet journal themes into sticker sheets. I'm still going back and forth about creating the functional bullet journal sticker sheets that would go along with them, like having the days of the week and different trackers and to-do lists and whatnot, because there's so much work that goes into creating those, as well as creating these videos and doing all of the other things I need to do in my day-to-day life. but it's definitely still an option in my mind because I constantly feel myself being drawn to the idea. And I say that because I always have multiple ideas and projects bouncing around in my head that I want to work on. And recently I've been considering creating repeating patterns for my shop because I think digital patterns are so useful in so many ways since they can be used on everything from cups and blankets to pajamas and even printed out and used in bullet journals themselves. So I don't know why, but I've recently been pulled in that direction again as well. That doesn't come as too much of a surprise to me because patterns are another one of many things I've dabbled with in the past. But I feel like it could be something fun to add to my shop while I'm still busy trying to get these videos completed in a timely manner. Time is just not my friend lately. There's so much I want to do, and I'm so happy that I've recently been able to adjust my schedule to make sure I'm doing things that are important to me, like drawing every day, reading the Bible, working out, and just reading for fun. But it's hard to find balance between doing all of these things and creating YouTube videos that take like 20 to 25 hours each, as well as creating for my shops and also doing other work that actually pays the bills. The days are just endlessly packed and there's always so much more to do after each day ends. So I'm really trying to find the balance lately and I think I'm getting there, but it's a lot. Just being completely real here, but it's been a bit discouraging lately, putting so much work and effort into these videos and having YouTube show them to only about half as many people as it used to. I'm so grateful for all of you who tune in, and I don't want to downplay that at all, but as many of you artists can relate to, it's very hard to figure out what pleases the algorithm these days, since I'm not willing to sacrifice my authenticity over it. But as I keep reminding myself, the theme of this year is seasons, and there are always going to be ups and downs and peaks and valleys, and I think I'm just in a bit of a valley right now, which means that hopefully I'll be at the top of the mountain soon again, looking back on all of this and laughing about it. It's really not as serious as I make it sound, but if you've ever put tons of effort into something you're passionate about, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about here. Anyways, enough of my rambling. I've just drawn a simple M at the top of the page here to represent March, and I've drawn a little mini calendar on the opposite side of the page because I just love having those and I think they're so cute on weekly pages. This weekly setup has only 6 boxes for the days of the week, with one of them sharing both the days of the weekend. And I like this layout because it provides plenty of space for doodles all over the sides of the pages. Although these markers do have a fine tip, I may have pushed its capabilities a bit too far with how small I drew some of the things on the map, as well as the bacon in the pan. It's definitely possible to get into smaller spaces with these markers, but it can be a bit challenging as well, and I definitely need to stop drawing things so small on my pages. Sometimes I want to fit so much into a scene, and I'm not good at finding ways to simplify it, but overall, I think I accomplished what I needed to here. I'm outlining all of the objects on this page, which definitely brings a bit more clarity to everything. I'm using 2 different fineliners, one that is a bit thicker for some of the larger objects and outlines, and then another one for the smaller objects and details like the items on the map. And as you might have seen, I drew out of the lines a whole bunch on this page, like on the compass and outside of the fire, but it was so easy to cover up the mistakes with these paint markers, which makes this medium so much less intimidating than other mediums in my opinion. Next, I'm using a fine-tipped Posca paint marker to brighten up the eyes of the flame, and I've drawn in the path to the treasure on the map, and I'm just adding in some finishing touches with the white marker here. And again, I'm just adding a light drop shadow around the objects and the boxes to help them pop off the page a little bit. I apologize, it's a little hard to see on camera because my lighting is not always the greatest. Here you can see the shadows a little bit better in the close-up. It's a very subtle effect. For my week 3 pages, I'm deciding to use this washi tape to mask off part of the paper so that I'll be able to create a nice clean painting at the top of the page. This washi tape isn't super strong, but luckily it did the job just fine and allowed me to get really straight lines without any paint bleeding under the tape. I'm beginning with the larger background colors here, like the sky and the lake and the green grass of the hills. I'm layering each of these 2 to 3 times with the paint marker to get a more opaque coverage. For the clouds, I had to go over them quite a few more times than the other colors just because the white is obviously such a light color, but I think a little bit of the blue poking through the white worked out just fine. And then I'm writing in the word March with this pink marker. I found that these paint markers did layer up fairly well with just 2 coats and sometimes 3 coats of paint, which is nice to see. I like opaque coverage, so it's great that I can achieve this fairly easily. I got about this far in the painting when I was starting to think about how I didn't want to fine line all of this. And I decided that I would just leave the majority of this painting without outlines. There were a few places that needed it for clarity, like on the sailboat and the tent, but for the most part I was able to finish up this painting without using fine liners, which I thought gave a nice soft look for this page. Then I had the satisfying task of removing all of the washi tape. And I just needed to add a little flower on the outside here to tie everything together. I have a signpost at the bottom of this page that I haven't colored in yet, and it has 2 arrows which point to the lake and to camp. So I decided to draw those sign arrows on the tops of each of the day boxes. I was originally going to put the pink arrows on the top row of day boxes and the blue ones on the bottom, but then I changed my mind at the last minute, and so I also decided to recolor this flower on the bottom from pink to blue for some color contrast. I'm drawing purple outlines for all of the day boxes. And then I'm just writing the days of the week on the arrows at the top of each box. And getting started painting in the signpost that will really tie this page together. I often overcomplicate my drawings, so I really enjoy when I can just create something simple and sweet like this signpost that says a lot without actually being super detailed. And then I've brought in my light pink and light blue Tombow brush pens to add some lines to these boxes. And of course, I'm adding in a few highlights to brighten up some of the elements on this page. I usually draw my highlights with the light source being at the center of the page, but I remember changing my mind for this page and then forgetting I did halfway through the highlights, so just ignore that they don't make any sense at all. With cutesy, non-realistic looking art like this, it luckily doesn't seem to matter too much in the end. And here's an up-close look at the pages. For my final set of weekly pages, I'm going to be using the washi tape again to block off this scene at the bottom of the page. Again, I got a bit carried away with the details, and there's a lot going on in this drawing, but it was still a really fun one to paint. So this page is a night scene, which I thought ended the collection of weekly pages nicely. I feel like on every camping trip, there's always one person who's left awake by themselves at the end of the night, and they find themselves staring off into the silent darkness with just their thoughts to keep them company. And so I wanted to capture that in this drawing. And as you'll see as we get further into adding details, that our poor little bunny friend is the only one awake right now, and Gray Kitty and the flame of the campfire are sound asleep. And who is this? It's Lil Bean, just popping in to say hi. He really enjoys the tassels on this journal, and he often tries to paw at them. I decided to let him hang out here for a bit, but the second I pulled the cap off my pink marker, he went for it, and of course got paint all over his toes. So I had to step aside and get that off of him. Crazy kitten. He thinks everything is a toy. Bean has been doing great lately. He's 7 months old now and growing up so fast. He's such a sweet boy and he's so funny. And it's been wonderful having him around and watching him grow up. If you have cats, then you know just how much joy they bring with their huge personalities and their silly antics. I've had cats for about 15 years now, and I just can't imagine my life without one anymore. So I drew the sky purple to represent the nighttime, and I'm using pink and blue for the trees to pop out against it. Like I mentioned earlier, I thought the purple was going to be too dark for this theme since I'm very much a pastel girly, but I think it worked out really well for representing the night sky, and I really enjoy how this light pink and light blue are complemented by it. There was a moment here where I turned off my camera because my video was getting to be close to an hour long, and my phone sometimes has a hard time airdropping files that are over an hour long. So I was taking a pause in between videos and waiting for the paint to dry, and I, of course, forgot to press record again. But luckily I remembered pretty quickly, and all you missed was me coloring in Gray Kitty. After removing the washi tape, I've just added in the tops of the trees and the moon again because I just love having elements that go outside the outline of the box like this. And then I'm just coming in and adding some fineliner to the main characters, and I decided to leave everything else in the background without fineliner because I really enjoyed that look on the previous pages. I'm using my fine-tipped paint marker again to draw in some sparkles and stars in the sky. I really tried to use only the Woomer paint markers for as much as I could on these pages, but I really enjoy having a fine-tipped marker for details as well. and I'll be using the pink and blue colors to draw in the boxes for the days of the week. They got really chunky again, like they always do when I freehand it, but I think I'm growing to accept this look when it comes to paint markers and not using a ruler. And like I've said before, if you do something repeatedly like this, then eventually it ends up looking intentional. Next, I'm drawing in these little stars on each day box, which will hold the numbered days of the week. And I'm using the Tombow markers to add in some color to each of the boxes and break up all of the white space. I'm using the washi tape one final time to add a border around this mini calendar, and I'm coloring it in purple to match the nighttime vibes of this page and layering it up twice to get some nice coverage. Because I had layered the dark purple color first, this yellow color did need a couple coats of paint to really pop, which was to be expected. And I think overall, these colors really do layer up quite well. I decided to use a white paint marker to add some sparkles and dots to brighten up this design a little bit. And I don't know why, but I completely forgot to add highlights to the stars themselves here before putting away all of my lighting and video equipment. So I'll add a picture of what it looks like now since adding them. And if you follow me on Instagram, those photos have the highlights as well, and you'll be able to see how much they really spruced up this page. I'm rounding off the corners a little bit with this purple marker, and that wraps up this final set of pages. I really enjoyed creating this nighttime scene. And now it's time for our final flip through of all of the weekly pages for March. Thank you to Woomer for allowing me to try out these new acrylic paint markers. I really love the colors and how these pages turned out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in the next video.